Good morning. Day 33, 1/3 of our 99 days. I'm really curious how that feels to each and any one of you. Is this like, oh my God, another 66 days? Or is it like, wow, it's already day 33? And to me, this morning, it felt like, wow, I have so much more to share. I thought I would be done sharing around day 25, but there's so many topics that we haven't even touched upon I would like to share with you, like relationships, intimacy in relationships, the topic of jealousy. There are so many more things coming up this morning. Masculine and feminine energy. What else came up? I can't remember right now, but I had 10 different topics. So today I would like to go a little bit deeper into the topic of growth, because like the session is called Growth is an Absolute Courageous Thing. It's the most courageous thing actually you can think of. And if you're ignorant of something that's happening in your life, you're just simply not aware. You cannot even pick it up and change it. You're just completely, like it says, ignorant of it. But if you deny something, if you think that something I shared is not applicable to you, even if you're completely honest with yourself and did a very deep dive and cannot find something, but it's this feeling of denying underneath it, like it's not applicable to me, then that's actually something where you prevent yourself from growth. Even if you can't find it, it's still, there's always something there in each and every perspective. Even the pure, honest acknowledgement that you've had that perspective and you've worked with it and it has changed your life way back in the past, it's already different from denying it. So if something doesn't resonate, I'm sharing. It's not because. So look at it. Why it doesn't resonate? What is it that your mind is telling you? Not so much because I'm sharing a truth here. Like I said many times before, I'm not sharing a truth. I'm just mirroring things that happen in life. And because it's so subtle often, and the mind is so slick and smart, we think it's not applicable, or we simply don't recognize it. But if we don't recognize it, then share it in a group and say it simply doesn't resonate. Can someone give an example from his life? Perhaps then it does resonate for me. Because I could almost honestly say that in everything we share here, there's something in there for you. Small, big, easy to recognize, hard to recognize. There's always something. And sometimes it might help to just start to recognize it with other people outside yourself. So you recognize what's been shared. And then reflect that back on yourself. So how does that apply to my life? And as I said before, sometimes it might be the words I'm using that don't resonate yet. And asking again for a deeper exploration might help them. So growth is this inner desire for wanting to change something, anything within your life. And I'm actually probably an extreme example of a desire for growth. I just would like to explore everything. And I also recognize that I have still been, even being on this path of growth for many years, I've still been ignoring things within myself. I was just not ready to face, or it didn't show up earlier. But when it did show up, I managed to ignore it for 8 months. So let me give this example just to show and to share how difficult it sometimes is to face something which seems so irrelevant, and at the same time it's huge. So as many of you know, my boyfriend is from Latin America. So and we're together now for 8 months almost. So there is an absolute desire and necessity for me to learn Spanish. And for me, learning a new language was like something like, oh, I really don't look forward to that. I don't want to learn a new language. I have no basic knowledge of Spanish at all, not one word. And I don't want to go through all that. And so I did some lessons in November. But either it was I couldn't progress fast enough, or I just dropped it again and ignored my lessons and didn't use it at all and didn't apply it into real life. And my boyfriend was so kind to gently give me little nudges without pushing me, to like inviting me to learn this language. And then I had the real question to myself, okay, you have now 2 options. Do you want to learn the language, or do you even go to the extent of giving up the relationship for the long term? Because honestly, for me, being in South America, not able to speak Spanish, isolates me socially, because many people don't speak English there. So am I willing to feel isolated there? Or can I get over that fear of learning a new language? And then you might think like, how the hell can she be fearful of learning a new language? I mean, doing these sessions in English, learning a language might not be so difficult. But when I finally had the courage to find a new teacher, only 2 weeks ago, or 1 week ago even, and the first session was about to start, and it was live on Skype. And an hour before, I just completely freaked out. I completely freaked out. Finally saw what actually was the fear underneath learning a new language. And it was the fear of being laughed at. It was this old little me, having had a few experiences in my past when I was young, and felt so uncomfortable and ashamed being laughed at, that I felt this same fear coming up, not knowing how to say something in Spanish, that I would be laughed at saying it in the wrong way. So I completely freaked out an hour before the first session. And it was ridiculous, because I knew the first session would just be very easy and I had learned a few things. But I was so freaked out that I couldn't even remember the simple things like how to say hello to someone, or how to, the real basic things, which I obviously had learned in the first 5 lessons. But this fear underneath that came up, which I was completely not aware of, that it was so huge. I mean, I was aware of that, and I had worked with that in the past on different situations, but I was not aware that it was still so present in my system. And it made me feel so ridiculous. How can I feel so uncomfortable being laughed at? But it's not relevant whether it's ridiculous or not. The only relevance there that it's there. And it has been there in your system for some reason, or in my system for some reason, and it hasn't been dealt with completely. So it just showed up. And obviously it's not dealt with yet. I only had my first lesson. I'm still seeing myself postponing exploring this new language. I don't want to practice. I don't want to show my mistakes. I want to do it perfect at once, which is impossible learning a new language. So this example is just a small example of how we can prevent ourselves from growth so easily until we are willing, either through circumstances, but even like in my case, postponing it for 8 months is quite ridiculous. So even the circumstances didn't force me to face this fear earlier. I just had numerous excuses not to do it. I had to start up my new business. I was busy with my children. I didn't have time, blah, blah, blah. I had many excuses. But none of it was a real excuse. Because I wasn't just simply not ready to really feel the fear underneath. So for growth, there's only one. If the growth is like an innate inner desire. And that's why I started with the second time finding a teacher again, because there was this inner desire. It was really like a heartfelt desire. I want to be able to speak that language. It felt like, oh, if I could switch that button tomorrow, I would feel so amazing. And I could learn, I could meet new people, I could meet his friends, and I could just explore the country in a different way. So there were so many benefits for me, and the desire was so strong, and still the fear was so big. So that's why I'm saying growth is courageous, because unless you don't step into this challenge of becoming really uncomfortable, you won't really recognize and meet your fears. You can't contemplate on your fears. The fear has to show up. And fear can feel uncomfortable, it shows up in many ways. I call it all fears because ultimately it is a fear. So don't ignore this by saying I don't have fears. We all have fears. You might not like the word I'm using, calling it a fear, because you associate fear with some life-threatening issue. But acknowledging something to yourself which feels so shameful, like it was to me, was the first step to acknowledge the fear that was underneath. The simple fear of being laughed at. And of course, I recognize that fear because I've worked with it from other situations, like not showing up in a group because I'm afraid I'm laughed at. So that has changed a lot already, because I feel more secure about who I am, what I'm sharing, my authentic desires and beliefs. So that's already changed a lot. And when you feel stuck in this process, it's also a huge sign of being ready for growth. Because the only sign that you're not ready for growth is ignorance, or not ignorance, or even denying. Ignorance is just not knowing, but denying is you're not ready for growth in that area. Which again, of course, is fine, but it's a choice. But if you're stuck, you've already made huge steps. You cannot ignore it anymore because it's already present. You cannot deny it anymore because it's already present. You're just stuck in, you don't know how to move. You can't go back, you can't go forth. That's being stuck. And that's, in my experience, the best place to be in, because you need to really, really be fed up with the situation. And then there will be a sign, either from your circumstances or from within, that there's something that's challenging you, which is dealing with this feeling where you're so stuck. And try to find that moment where you're challenged, and then you might still be stuck with it for days or weeks. But softly opening up to this little nudge, like, okay, there is a challenge here for me. Am I ready to do it? Because being stuck in something is actually the same as that there's still a benefit for you to hold on to something. You can hardly imagine that there is a benefit, but there still is a benefit there. Because if there wouldn't be any benefit to you, either to hide your fear, or to hide the pain, or to prevent yourself from feeling that pain, that's the benefit. So that benefit weighs more than the other side, letting go of that feeling you're stuck with. So perhaps that question, like, what's my benefit here to hold on to something, might help you to see it from a different perspective. Or might help you to open up to where you're so stuck or feel so stuck. And we all know there are many, many examples of very courageous people who endured lots of extreme things in their lives, and they've come out so strongly. But your traumas don't have to be huge to actually have the same fear of overcoming it. It just sometimes helps with people when they have endured so much in their life. They kind of hit the wall so strongly that they have no choice. They have to change, they have to grow, they have to let go of things. And when your life has been more easy, or at least in society definition it has been easy, then you might also fall in the trap of, like, making the things that you experience feel very insignificant and small, so that's not really relevant. So by just saying it's not relevant, you think you don't have to work on it. But if it's showing up in your life, you do. if you're interested in growth for yourself, you do have to work on every little thing, like I had to do with my language challenge. So people with huge traumas often go through these changes more more in a way of a huge intensity, like they're completely stuck, and then there's a sudden release. And if you haven't had those intense traumas, it's just simply even more difficult to find them. But research has shown, and I forgot his name, who shared so beautifully about it, a psychologist. And it doesn't really matter whether a trauma is big or small. It has exactly the same effect on fears and how to overcome them. It's the same difficult process. So when you're here on 1/3 of the 99 days and listen to many of the 33 days so far, there is an innate desire for growth. And the only real reason for growth is to feel liberated. Because if you've overcome something, you feel liberated after that. It's literally a release. And when you feel liberated, you just literally feel yourself expanding. You literally become more present in life, in the present in the sense that you're literally energetically are more there. So you could almost say like your energetic field expands. And that's why people who have worked on themselves so much and show up authentically come across like this huge warm bath of energy. It's very attractive to be with someone who feels so solid and powerful. And you'll become that, and you are already expanding yourself by letting go things where you're stuck. So growth is literally growing, expanding yourself energetically. Because if you feel contracted or small, you literally keep your frequency, your energy within, like you build a shield around it. So that's why I shared a few sessions, and thanks for the invitation to share more about it. Shared a few sessions about the heartfelt desire or our purpose, because tapping into these desires is another way to opening up and finding out within yourself where you're still stuck. Like I did with my desire to learn something new. So in other words, a heartfelt desire at first might feel exciting and releasing, and then if you then explore, okay, if I really want to manifest that in my daily life, how true is that heartfelt desire? Because I might have to face something I'm not ready to face yet. To really integrate it in my life and to really show this desire to other people and share it with others. So you could say that growth is a continuous exploration. And so far for me, it has never stopped. It's never ending. Like there's always something to explore. And luckily, we don't have to do it all at once because it would be pretty intense. And unluckily, we can't do it all at once because it would have been so liberating. Like some people share themselves like that, just this full blown up awakening, and it never has. The old fears have never come back. It's just completely vanished. And they've become great teachers. Eckhart Tolle is one of the great examples. And Muriani is another one. But they were literally ready to die, both of them. One was ready to die to kill himself, and the other one was ready to die because of a severe cancer that couldn't be cured. And that's why they say in exploring growth and developing yourself, it's you have to die before you die. You really have to die in that fear. You really have to be willing to let go of that piece in you, the death of that piece in you. And that feels very vulnerable because you're completely not sure what's on the other side. You're not sure if there's feeling of liberation on the other side because you cannot tap into that from that fear. So you literally have to surrender. So if there's a benefit to hold on to that fear, then you're not ready to die there. It's still serving you. So another desire for me came up this morning, feeling that even if it's a small group, but tapping into this group, there's a number of people really actively going through these 99 days. And I would like to take one day that I do the session in the evening. I think that's the best time for everyone. And have as many of you live at the same time, present at this live session, so we can literally, we don't have to share anything in that session. I'd still do the same way as I always do, but just be there with as many people at the same time, simply to feel that connection stronger. Because it will help you to just feel you're not there by yourself, but you have a group with you. So I will take a day and propose a timing. And please react if that time is impossible for you, but you would like to attend live with as many people as possible. And let's see if we can find a day within the next 2 weeks to be present at the same time with as many as possible. So just feel into this, and I'll post it within a couple of days probably. If this resonates. And I think it will help for the other 60 days or so to more deeply connect with each other, because you will learn more from each other than just from me or from yourself. And I'm also really open to doing a live Q&A. To just share your questions. But let's start with just find a time to come together energetically at the same time in the live session. In silence still, but Okay, tomorrow it will be probably session in the morning. I will post the time, probably around 9 or 10. Okay, have a nice day. Bye.